Hi everyone and welcome to the Dibbly-Dobbly Podcast. Before we get started, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page as well. On today's episode of the podcast, we review the second test match between India and England and preview the third test match in Ahmedabad. Let's recap the scores from the second test match between India and England from Chennai. India batted first and made 329. Rohit Sharma top scoring with 161. Moeen Ali took 4 wickets. England in reply, all out for 134. Ben Foakes top scoring with 42 not out. Ashwin taking 5 wickets for India. India in their second innings, all out for 286. Ashwin top scoring with 106. Moeen Ali taking 4 wickets. England was set 482 to win. They were bowled out for 164. Moeen Ali top scoring with 43. Patel taking 5 wickets for India. India won by 317 runs, levelling the series at 1-1. And Ravi Ashwin was named man of the match for his century and taking 9 wickets in the match. Here are the key points and stats from the second test match between India and England from Chennai. 317, India's biggest margin of victory in terms of runs in a test against England. This is the second time Ravi Ashwin has scored a century and took 8 wickets in a test. He achieved this feat earlier against the West Indies in Mumbai in 2011, where he scored 103 and took 9 for 117 in a drawn test match. No other Indian all-rounder has managed this feat. Axar Patel becomes the 9th Indian bowler to take a 5-wicket haul on debut, and the second left-arm spinner to do so. He took 5 for 60 in England's second innings. The other left-arm spinner to take 5 wickets on debut for India was Dibbly-Dobbly. He took 6 for 103 against Australia in Chennai in 1979. 21 test wins in India for Virat Kohli. He equals MS Dhoni's record for the most wins by an Indian captain at home. Overall, India have won 34 test matches under Kohli, 7 clear of the next best, 27 under Dhoni. Ravi Ashwin has dismissed Ben Stokes for the 10th time in test matches. Stokes and Warner are the 2 batsmen that Ashwin has dismissed 10 times in test matches. 298 was England's match aggregate, their lowest in a test against India in which they lost 20 wickets. Their lowest is 230 at Headingley back in 1986. And it is their second lowest in any test in Asia. This is the 4th time where a team winning the second test of a series by 200 plus runs after losing the first test by a similar margin. The 3 previous occasions were South Africa against England in 2017, South Africa against Australia in 2014, and the West Indies against England in 1950. On both occasions, when South Africa fought back to win the second test, they ended up losing the series 3-1 to England and 2-1 to Australia. 0 times Joe Root hasn't passed 50 in a test in the 8 test matches he has played against India. 8.16 was England's batsman's average when playing the sweep shot in this second test match. They scored 49 runs off the shot and were dismissed 6 times. In the first test, they averaged 38.75 and scored 155 runs and were dismissed 4 times. 15 test wins for India at Chennai, their highest at any venue. They have 13 wins in Delhi and Kolkata. And 238.9 was Moeen Ali's strike rate in the second innings. He scored 43 off 18 balls, which is the highest by an English batsman for any innings of 15 or more bowls. The second best from all teams is Abdul Razak's 17-ball 43 against Zimbabwe in 2011. What were some of the key factors in deciding this test match? Well, India winning the toss was crucial for India winning this second test match on a tough Chennai pitch. There was talk about the Chennai pitch for this second test match, but people can have their own opinions on the pitch. It's not a surprise to see a pitch in India turn from day one. At the end of the day, you have to play on what pitch is prepared for the match and try to adapt to the conditions. Rohit Sharma's 161 in the first innings and his partnership with Ajinkya Rahane for 162 for the fourth wicket, help India get that score of 3-2-9 in the first innings. So India's spinners just dominated on a pitch that offered lots of turn, especially Ashwin, scoring 106 and taking 9 wickets for the match was outstanding for India. And England had no answers for India's spinners and a complete team performance from India. Those were the key points and stats from the second test match between India and England. Let's have a look at the team's performances during this second test match. Let's start with India and their batsmen. Rohit Sharma, 161 and 26. Gill, 0 and 14. Pujara, 21 and 7. Kohli, 0 and 62. Rahane, 67 and 10. Pant, 58 not out and 8. And Ashwin, 13 and 106. Let's have a look at their bowlers. Ashwin took 9 wickets for the match. Patel took 7. Ishant Sharma took 2. Kuldeep Yadav took 2. And Siraj took 1 wicket for the match. That's how the Indian batsmen and bowlers performed in this test match. Let's have a look at England, and let's start with their batsmen. Burns, 0 and 25. Sibley, 16 and 3. Lawrence, 9 and 26. Root, 6 and 33. Stokes, 18 and 8. Pope, 22 and 12. Folkes, 42 not out and 2. Let's have a look at their bowlers. Moeen Ali took 8 wickets for the match. Stone took 4. Leach took 6. Joe Root took 1. And Broad, Stokes and Lawrence didn't take any wickets for the match. That's how England's batsmen and bowlers performed in this test match. Let's have a look at both teams' 11s heading into the third test match. Let's have a look at India's potential 11. India have named their squads for the last 2 test matches of the series. Umesh Yadav comes in to replace Thakur, who has been released to play for Mumbai in the Vijay Hazare Trophy. Yadav will undergo a fitness test before the third test to see if he's recovered from that calf injury he picked up in Australia. So India's squad for the last 2 tests are Kohli, Rohit Sharma, Agarwal, Gill, Pujara, Rahane, Rahul, Hardik Pandya, Pant, Saha, Ashwin, Kuldeep Yadav, Axel Patel, Sundar, Ishant Sharma, Bumrah, Siraj and Umesh Yadav. I think India don't need to make too many changes to their team heading into the third test match, but given that this is a day-night test and the last day-night test played in India against Bangladesh, the wickets were mostly taken by the fast bowlers, so they may make some changes to their 11. Bumrah missed out the last test, so he may come back in for Kuldeep Yadav. In India, go in with 2 spinners and 3 quicks. That will depend on conditions and if the pitch is going to turn, but the likely 11 could be Rohit Sharma, Gill, Pujara, Kohli, Rahane, Pant, Ashwin, Axel Patel, Ishant Sharma, Siraj and Bumrah. Let's have a look at England's potential 11 for the third test match. England have named their squad for the third test match. Moeen Ali is out as he returns home and Bairstow, Woakes and Wood come into the squad. So England's squad for the third test is Root, Anderson, Archer, Bairstow, Bess, Broad, Burns, Crawley, Folkes, Lawrence, Leach, Pope, Sibley, Stokes, Stone, Woakes and Wood. I think England will make some changes to their 11 for this third test match at Ahmedabad. With England adopting this rotation system, which has people criticising their approach to selection and resting players, by doing that, it's just upsetting the cohesion of the team with players coming in and out. In saying that, there are some spots that are in doubt. Burns and Lawrence, they haven't scored the runs for England and could make way for either Crawley or Bairstow. With Moeen Ali going home, that opens up another bowling spot, so Bess could come back into the team and England may go in with 3 quicks and 2 spinners, or 1 spinner and 3 quicks. If that is the case, maybe Archer returns, if fit from that elbow injury, comes back into the side. So the likely 11 could be Crawley, Sibley, Bairstow, Root, Stokes, Pope, Folkes, Bess, Leach or Archer, Broad and Anderson. I think both teams may go into the third test match with those 11s, but we shall see. What are the key areas that India need to do to win this third test match? Keep doing what they've been doing. We saw in this second test match, they were back to their old ways. The batsmen were aggressive and having good body language and putting pressure back onto England's bowlers. Rohit Sharma showed that in his 161. Kohli was back scoring runs. He scored 62. And so was Rahane, scoring 67. And Rishabh Pant was doing Rishabh Pant things, scoring 58 not out in the first innings and taking some outstanding catches from behind the stumps. The bowlers, especially the spin bowlers, and Ashwin, Axel Patel and Kuldeep Yadav, bowling England out on a turning track is great for India. Ashwin was outstanding, scoring 106 and taking 9 wickets for the match. Just shows why he is one of the best spin bowlers going around. Axel Patel taking 5 wickets on debut, was bowling well, and Kuldeep Yadav did well on his test return. Overall, a great team performance from India. They had great energy, which was brought about by having a crowd to play in front of. Curly during the test match was geeing them up, and the noise they made when India scored runs and taking wickets was unreal. I think India needed that to have the crowd back and give them that spark to kick them back into gear and dominate this test match and level the series at 1-1. During this test match, India showed that fight, resilience, character and mental toughness that we saw at Australia, and it showed in this test match with their performance. For now, it's about not being complacent for India heading into this third test match because the job is not done yet, and they know England will put in a better performance in the third test match. In saying that, India will be fired up and determined to win this third test match and potentially the series. England have a lot of work to do to bounce back in this series. In this second test match, they were simply dominated by India from ball 1 to the last ball bowled. They struggled against India's spinners on a turning track, lack of cohesion within the team due to the rotation system put in place. What I will say on that is we understand why England are doing it to keep their players fresh during this tough period for all of us. And given England's busy test schedule playing up to 18 test matches this year. But in a series like this against India, you are 1-0 up in the series, a chance to win the series, and you take out players and make 4 changes. That's going to disrupt the cohesion of the team, and it showed in this test match. But if England went in with the same 11 as they did in the first test match, they would have still have lost this test match anyway. But they should have played their best 11 to try and take a 2-0 series lead against India, which happens very rarely, especially in India. Now they find themselves at 1-1 with a lot at stake, a series win and a spot in the World Test Championship final at Lord's. It seems to me that England are worrying about the future and planning for the Ashes, which don't even start until the end of the year. Focus on trying to win this series, not looking into the future because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. I think heading into this third test at Ahmedabad, they will be slightly confident, given that this is a day-night test, and with Broad and Anderson swinging that pink ball under lights, it will be a handful for India. Because India don't have fond memories of day-night tests after they were bowled out for 36 against Australia at Adelaide. It's going to be a challenge for England trying to bounce back after losing this second test. But for them, the areas to work on are having a plan of attack to India's spinners. For example, using their feet to get to the pitch of the ball and putting pressure back on them. Also, the top order need to contribute a bit more. Joe Root can't do it all himself. He needs support from England's other batsmen. England's bowlers need to be a bit more consistent and build pressure with dot balls and maidens. As we saw in this second test, they didn't do that at times. So for England, it's all about trying to nail the basics and putting a good performance together. They have the belief that they can win in these conditions after the first test win. And hopefully, that loss in the second test match can motivate them to do better in this third test match in Ahmedabad. Who do I think is going to win this third test match in Ahmedabad? Well, there are a lot of unknowns about this third test match at the new Ahmedabad Stadium, given that this is the first ever international match played at the ground. So there are so many unknowns about how the pitch will play, and this being a day-night test. Let's see what happens over the 5 days. You'll have to say India are a chance to win because all of the momentum is with them following this win in the second test. But India haven't had a great time of it in day-night tests after being bowled out for 36 in Adelaide against Australia. England will fancy their chances with Broad and Anderson, with that pink ball under lights swinging all over the place. Conditions will be very different to Chennai for this third test in Ahmedabad, and for the team who wins the toss, it will be crucial again to who wins this third test. It could go either way, but let's wait and see and may the best team win. Well, that's the end of the innings, the close of play for this episode of the podcast. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast, and like and share our Facebook page. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.